The contents of this program may not necessarily represent the views of Ummah Channel.
Good evening, live from the studios of Ummah Channel. I'm Mohammed Shafiq with this week's edition of Debate Night. Tonight we ask the question, do we have the right to offend? In the past few weeks, a member of our community, Maajid Nawaz, tweeted a reference to a cartoon series when Jesus met Mo, which depicts Prophet Isa and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in a variety of different ways. And those sketches have been said to be offensive to a number of Muslims. But there are also a number of Muslims who think it's not offensive, and that religions should be caricatures and should be able to be challenged and should be able to ridicule it and make fun of. So that's a debate tonight. Do people in this country have the right to tweet offensive cartoons of any religious figure? Or do we live in a society where freedom of speech is paramount, no matter how abhorrent somebody's views are? It's an open platform as ever. We'll be taking your calls very shortly. The lines will open very shortly on 01254 277 370. Wherever you are in the world watching this, a very warm welcome. We want to hear from you on the topic of freedom of speech, the right to offend, or surely we should all be able to give each other a bit of space to respect one's beliefs or one's cultures, or even if you don't have a faith and you don't belong to a faith community, the right to choose not to belong to a faith community. So, what should happen now? Should the Liberal Democrats take action against Maajid Nawaz because he is a parliamentary candidate? Or is this all just a witch hunt which is set up by some people within the Muslim community to demonize Maajid Nawaz because he's a liberal Muslim? We invited somebody on, we invited Maajid Nawaz and the Quilliam Foundation to come on and be part of this programme. Nobody was available to come on, but I'm pleased to say we've got a very exciting young crowd, panel, who are going to join us, who are going to contribute to this show. Let me start introducing to you our panel. We'll have introductory remarks on the question of the right to offend and free speech, and then we'll open the lines to you at home. If also you want to join the discussion remotely, we're on Twitter, official Ummah CH. Please use the hashtag Debate Night. And if you're on Facebook, there's the official Ummah Channel page on there. A lot of people are already tweeting their comments on there. We'll get through some of them very, very shortly. Let me introduce my panel. From the Humanist Society of Greater Manchester is Guy Otten. Guy, good evening.
Good evening.
Good to have you back. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
We've got Mazhar Khan, who's a UK community activist based here in the northwest of England. Mazhar, assalamu alaikum, good evening.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
And we're very honoured to have Shaykh Amir Qureshi. He's part of the Muslim Council of Coventry, so it's quite far away. And we're very grateful, Shaykh. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Thank you for coming, and we're very grateful that you've taken time
My
out
pleasure.
on what is a very, very nasty day outside in terms of the weather. And last but not least, we've got David Milne, who's also part of the Greater Manchester Humanist Society. David, good evening and welcome.
Good evening to you.
Good to see you.
Yes,
Let's start with you, David.
Oh dear, right, okay.
If you don't mind. Do you
Not at all.
believe in the right to offend?
Absolutely, indeed.
Tell me more.
Well, I think I'm offended most days, and what makes it interesting is that if I am offended, I have, recourse to the law in this country.
Yeah.
And that's all I need to say at that point, I think.
At that point.
Most of us have the, well, we all have the right to practice the religion that we want to. That is a legal right in this country. And, we might say of mildly offensive things to each other, Christians, non-Christians, Buddhists, Muslims, Sikhs, but that's a right, I think.
And where does where would you draw a line at freedom of speech?
Or
would you?
I don't think... Well, I don't think I would be involved in personal insults. And that's just me. But I don't think we need to be, rude to each other.
Okay.
But, with regards to cartoons, that's a kind of a broad spectrum general thing, I think.
I'm sure we'll explore this as the show gets on. Thank you so much. That's David Milne, who's from the Greater Manchester Humanist Society.
It's David Milne, by the way.
Milne, okay. I
R.
may have offended you there. I do apologise.
No, you've not offended
I'm not
me.
one for offending.
What a tiny detail an R is between friends.
Thank you very much, David. Shaykh Amir Qureshi, isn't it time for Muslims to be able to laugh at themselves, have cartoons, relax? Surely the Prophet and God is way above these sort of things.
Of course, the question that you have asked is something to consider. But the problem is that, look, everyone has the right to have a personal view, but when they enforce that view to hurt a nation, a community, that's where things get very unhelpful. An example would be, for example, the Jewish community. The Muslim and the Jews get along, but as soon as you criticize the Jews with Holocaust or these type of critical remarks, the Jews then retaliate on such issues because they're very emotional on such issues which are dear to them. Again, when it comes to religion, every religion is very personal, very emotionally attached to their God and to their prophets, to their holy books. Just looking at the news lately, the Sikh community, they've been there's a big hoo-ha at the moment regarding the Golden Temple, why Margaret Thatcher's government was involved in that. So yeah, there is right to freedom of expression, but I would say that there can never be freedom of expression. There has to be limitations.
Thank you very much, Shaykh Amir Qureshi, who's from the Muslim Council of Coventry, making his opening remarks. As you know, most of our viewers will know because you watch us regularly, the concept's quite simple. We give a few minutes at the beginning for our panel to make their opening remarks and a few minutes at the end of the programme to make their closing remarks. And then in between, it's an absolute roller coaster through the calls. We'll take a call. Just keep on the... let's take a call, I think, because I don't want to interrupt you, Mazhar. I often do that. Let's go to Manchester and talk to... Who are we going to talk to tonight? Who's our first caller? Pomona.
Yes.
Pomona, good evening and welcome to Debate Night. Hi.
My name is Mona.
Mona, hi. How are you?
Hi, I'm okay, thank you.
What would you like to say?
I would like to say the people you invited, your debate, right? So you don't know their background. Guy Otten is my ex-husband, my best friend, right? He's a
Okay.
Manchester, right? He.
Okay. Shall we? I think we should leave that call there now because I don't want to get embroiled in public spats. But thank you for your call anyway. The topic is the cartoons of the Jesus and More series and the reaction of Maajid Nawaz of the Liberal Democrats, who tweeted a reference to that, saying that he believes that Prophet Muhammad is too bigger than these cartoons to be offended. That caused a huge uproar, as we all know. And so we're asking the question, is it right for those cartoons to be publicised in the way that they were? And surely, is there a right to offend? Mazhar, I'll ask you the same question I asked the Sheikh. I mean, is it time for Muslims to lighten up?
To be quite honest, I think it's a very academic discussion, to be quite honest, because we're talking about...
People like you can't, people like you and me and these Muslims that we live in this community, in this country, are told that we can't laugh at ourselves. Do you laugh at yourself?
All the time.
Do you look around the community and
all the time?
pick up things?
People who know me that I'm not a very serious person off camera. So people who know me, I like to share a joke and we have a laugh. But that's not the discussion here, to be quite honest. This discussion about freedom to insult, it's a very academic discussion, because the fact of the matter is laws already exist in Britain that stop people from insulting one another, right? So people might say, oh yes, I have my right to offend, but if I challenged anybody right now to offend black people or Jewish, they'll refuse to do that. So it's very academic, very nice to say we believe in the right to insult people. Laws exist. Advertisements in this country have been banned because they insult people. So for example, you know, there was an advertisement about a pregnant nun on an ice cream advert. The advertising agency banned it because it was insulting to Christians. Phones for You had a mobile phone advert with Jesus depicted on it. They banned it because of insulting, you know. And people have got into trouble for saying things which are insulting to people. Very recently in Manchester last year, when Cregan shot or killed 2 police women, and somebody put a statement on their Facebook praising that, he got into trouble over that. And he wasn't allowed to claim freedom of speech. So laws already exist that you cannot insult people. But the problem is, and the Muslims get upset, is because when we get insulted, when we get mocked, when we get denigrated, we have no recourse to law. We have to take it and bear it. But it seems that the law is there to protect other people's sensitivities, other people's red lines, and other people's values. But it seems Muslims are fair game, and Muslim bashing and Islamophobia is now the only acceptable form of discrimination that now exists in Britain. Every other form of discrimination is banned. You know, the other day I was listening to this footballer, Collymore, on Radio 5, and he named every form of, you know the tweet thing that happened recently.
The racist
and he mentioned every form of racism. He talked about racism, you know, racism. He talked about all sorts of homophobia, but he didn't mention Islam, because that doesn't come foremost in people's minds, because bashing Islam, being anti-Muslim, is an acceptable form of discrimination in today's society, unfortunately.
Okay,
Just ask you something. Would you mind if I asked you just
I will in a second, David. I just want to bring Guy in, and then I want to open the lines, and then we'll kind of have that debate and discussion. Guy, welcome. And
thank you. Yeah.
Oh, can I take a call?
Yes, go on.
Guy's an expert at this. Let's go to where we're going to. Hello, good evening. You're live on Ummah Channel.
Hello, Assalamualaikum. Safiq, Brother Yaqub from Blackburn.
Brother Yaqub, how are you?
I am fine.
What would you like to say?
Brother Safiq, I just explained it 5 minutes ago. I was very offended one of the TV channels. That TV channel was insulted my Prophet and my Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the guy who was holding the program, he was just listening his scholar, and he just keep advertising the what color propaganda against the Muslim. And the channel is a Glory TV, and program is still going on, and he's...
Okay. And the difficulty I've got, Yaqub, by stay on the line, is that we don't want to mention any particular channel, and there's a reason for that. We just want to stick on our topic, which is the right to offend, and the aftermath of the cartoon now last week. So can we stick to that topic, please?
Brother Safiq.
Yes, I'm listening to you.
Yeah, brother. Is there any rules or regulations by the government, the people who insult the religions, prophets, and their gods or their Allah, can we take some kind of actions against that channel or the person who is inciting speech against those scholars?
Okay.
Can you talk about this?
Okay, Yaqub, there's 2 things that we want to pick up with. We'll pick up with our panellists, but the thing is, if you're still unhappy with the content of any program, including here on Ummah Channel, you can complain to the...
I was offended just only 5 minutes ago. Somebody got
offended. Okay, Yaqub, I'm giving you some advice. If you're unhappy with any broadcaster who is broadcasting whatever material and you feel offended by that, you can complain to the Ofcom broadcaster. If you put that into Google, you can raise a complaint against that particular broadcaster you've had tonight. And the other issue about laws and legislation to protect religious belief, I'm sure we'll pick up with our panel. Guy, we were coming to you.
Yes, thank you very much. I think there's a distinction here between offending people and offending ideas, criticising ideas, I would say. Religions, ideologies, political movements, philosophies, they're all ideas, and they're up for debate, discussion, criticism. and analysis. I personally am grateful in this society that I can discuss. I find it very interesting. I can, for instance, deny its validity. I can discuss the mythological origins of Islam. But I hope that that's not insulting or offensive, because that would be, to my mind, going going too far. But when it comes to simply gratuitous insults against blacks or Muslims or Sikhs, I personally don't value that kind of freedom. I don't think that's important at all. But what is important is the ability to be able to get to grips with ideas. And a religion is an idea. It's a set of ideas, a set of dogma.
Yeah.
And those kind of things we must
have to be open to challenge.
Challenge them, have the freedom to challenge. Yes.
Ridicule?
Say it again.
Ridicule?
Yes, I would include ridicule. I mean, I'm quite happy for people to ridicule atheism and humanism. They do it all the time. And we give as good as we get, I think. I personally quite enjoy the Jesus and Mo cartoons, but I mean, they're relatively peripheral. And what the idea of prayer, zakat, Hajj, the belief in one God and Muhammad as his messenger, all of these are central to Islam. But surely the depiction of the Prophet, that seems to me to be a peripheral issue. And as far as our culture in this society is concerned, we have a very visual culture. And so pictures of everything, are important to us, and they mean a lot.
So they tell a story?
They tell a story. And
okay.
the Jesus and Mo cartoons are actually, I don't think relatively innocuous. They don't insult Muhammad, the Prophet.
Okay, let's go and take a call. Good evening, you're live on Ummah Channel.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa'assalam. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name's Zahir, and I'm calling from Birmingham. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Shafiq. Firstly, I want to say that I like your programs. You're very articulate in presenting.
Thank you very much. What would you like to say about the topic?
My question is, what can we do to stop this from happening again and again? Are there any suggestions from your panel? And the second point was that when referring to our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's name isn't Muhammad, it's Muhammad, and also please if sallallahu alaihi wasallam is also used after the name of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But the main point was that was the main point. But the other question was, what can we do to stop this from happening again and again? It happens regularly. Any suggestions from your panel or the scholar or from yourself?
Thank you very much. As ever, Zahir there from Birmingham. If you want to join the discussion, it's on 01254277370. If you're calling us internationally, wherever you are in Europe, in North America, the number is 00441254277370. Let's take another call. Let's see who's on the line. Assalamu alaikum. You're live on my channel.
Wa alaikum salam.
What's your name and where are you calling from?
Muhammad. I just want to make a comment on
Muhammad, where are you calling from, brother?
London.
London. What would you like to say about the issue of the right to offend?
I just want to make a comment on the last person to make the comment. I don't know his name. The issue of challenging ideas. We Muslims don't have a problem challenging ideas. But what we're seeing in the West...
Mohammed, why don't you talk? It was Guy Otten, who's from the chair of the Greater Manchester Humanist Society. Why don't you talk to Guy? He's listening.
Okay, I'll just make a comment, general comment, okay?
Okay.
Basically, what we're seeing in Britain especially, that when it comes to challenging and debating, Muslims are up for it. We're not up for insults. Now, he said about challenging ideas. Well, it's funny that he's saying that at the very time when the British government has this extremism task force that is going to make what is called T-vote. They're going to label anyone extremist and banding with this, or anyone who challenges democracy, or anyone who challenges their ideas. So this is what's coming out from the West, the very heart of those people who say freedom of speech and so on and so forth. So, yes, Muslims, we don't have a problem of discussing ideas and debating. It's been done for centuries. But what we're finding is that the West, they're contradicting their own values at the moment. And they're coming out with legislation, they're coming up, passing legislation, arresting people, trying to silence people from challenging their way of life in the West.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments there, Mohammed from London, who says Islam is not immune from being challenged and is ready for that. David, you wanted to come in there, David.
Well, I was just going to ask this gentleman here. I mean, with respect, you made a rather sweeping statement. You suggested that you were somehow not eligible for, recourse to the law. Why do you think that? Why is it that, as a Muslim, that if you feel you've been offended or insulted, that you don't have recourse to the law? That's the question.
Politicians like Cameron have come on and made public statements, and so has the American government when things like this happen recently.
Yes, but we're not talking about politics. I'm
when the politicians
specifically asking you about the law of the country.
It is our right to insult, right? When
Yes.
people make sweeping statements like that,
Sure.
you know for a fact that you're not in a level playing field. You're not in a fair game where you're playing by the same rules.
Yeah.
So, for example, when this cartoon came out, nobody of any serious position said it should be banned. No politician, no journalist, no national spokesperson could credibly say that this should be banned. However, we find here that when an advertisement insulting the Christians was put out, it was straight away banned by the advertising agency. When there was an advertisement advertising telephones with Jesus Christ depicted on it, it was banned straight away. When somebody made a joke about the Cregan's murder, and rightly so, they lost their job over it. So the point is, you find examples upon examples where people's sensitivities have been insulted. There's some recourse to law. So I'm asking you, why is it that Muslims don't have the same recourse to law?
Gentlemen, let me take...
well, you do have the same recourse to law.
So can you give me an example? So can you give me an
point.
example when our religion has been insulted, where somebody has been...
Gentlemen, let me take a call and you get your breath back. Let's go to Rochdale and talk to Shahid. Assalamu alaikum, Shahid.
Wa alaikum assalam. How are you? Okay?
I'm good, brother. What would you like to say about the topic?
I just wanted to say, well, first of all, it's a good show that you've got on today, and you've got a good topic on. But what I wanted to say, what we've got to look at is why cartoons such as these, and I mean, you can even throw in the so-called author Salman Rushdie's book, why these were created. It's simple. It was created to offend Islam and Muslims. I mean, Islam's open to interpretation, like, sorry, I don't know the brother's name, but he was saying that, it is open to interpretation, and, we'll take questions. It's not a problem. But when there's offensive attacks towards Islam, I'm sorry, I mean, I'm not going to apologize, but, Muslims have got too much passion and too much love for the Prophet, peace be upon him, that, we won't sit there quietly, because nobody really defends Islam, nobody really defends Muslims. I mean, you've even got to look at the media and how they portray Islam. They'll show certain videos that aren't appropriate for the time, and, I mean, I'm probably picking here, but looking at 9/11 and they showed incorrect videos, it'll prove that they showed incorrect videos on the news, just to show Muslims in a bad light. I mean, it's even been proved, even if we go back, that there were no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, but Islams were shown in a bad light. And what I want to say is, I mean, even these days, if you look at the workspace, you can't question somebody's sexuality even without even thinking, am I going to face disciplinary? Am I possibly going to face a sack here? But it's okay for colleagues to even have a sly dig at Islam. It's just simply the way it's being portrayed. And if no one's going to, defend Islam, we will, right to the very end. And I'm pretty certain no one's going to apologise for that.
Thank you very much, Shahid, there from Rochdale. If you want to join the discussion, please try to keep your comments as brief as possible so we can get as many more of you as possible. Thousands are waiting to get through on 01254 277 370. And let me just, Mazhar, go back to you. Let me pose the same question that David asked you. You give 3 examples of adverts, and the Advert Standards Authority have right to rule why the adverts... we'll go to calls in a second. I just want to ask this question. So you refer to adverts, but there is recourse for Muslims to go and complain about adverts, isn't there? Through the same system in which members of the Christian community complained about those that attacked the Christian church.
So people know, the authorities know that Muslims do get upset. So why is it that they continue to show these things? Why is it they continue to publish and insult? Remember that when Muslims get insulted, it's different, right? It is different to Muslims being open to questions in debate. You know, there have been books written over the centuries challenging Islam, challenging the authenticity of the Quran, authenticity of the prophethood, validity of Islam. There's been no riots in 1400 years. Muslims have got no problems with debating even the most contentious issues. There's a difference between debate and insults. When we raise our children up, one of the first things we teach our children is don't do anything to anyone else that you wouldn't like done to yourself. Don't insult or say anything to somebody that they don't like. So why is it that when we grow up, we want to behave like children, but when we're children, we want to live by values? It seems like the world's become topsy-turvy.
But surely the point is that the same law that protects gays, blacks, Sikhs, also protects Muslims.
Yes.
So you can use the same law. Right. That's the point that David is making. So is that not true?
Yes. So, gentlemen, hold your thought there. We're going to take our break. We'll come back after a break. We'll take more of your calls, and there are hundreds getting in touch on Twitter and Facebook, and we're trying to get through some of those messages as well as your calls and listening from our panel. Join us on the other side of this. Welcome back to Debate Night, live from the studios of Ummah Channel here in Blackburn, United Kingdom. Wherever you are watching this around the world, we're talking about the crisis that happened a few weeks ago in which Maajid Nawaz, who's a parliamentary candidate for the Liberal Democrats in Hampstead and Kilburn, tweeted and referred to a series of cartoons called When Jesus Met More, which many Muslims took offence to. There were a number of Muslims who didn't take offence to it, and it caused a huge almighty row in the media, on social media, and there's been a lot of pressure. We did invite Maajid Nawaz to come here to Ummah Channel to speak to us on the phone, or somebody from the Quilliam Foundation, of which he's a founding member. Nobody was available to come on. So what I'm going to do, because I really want you, our viewers, to hear what Maajid Nawaz has been saying and his justifications for it, and obviously he's not here. So I'm going to give you what he wrote in The Guardian last week. He wrote in The Guardian last Wednesday, and I quote, "My intention was to carve out a space to be heard without constantly fearing the blasphemy charge on pain of death," he wrote. "I did it for the Salman Taseer, the governor of Punjab, who was assassinated by his bodyguard for calling for a review of Pakistan's colonial-era blasphemy laws. He says he did it for Malala Yousafzai, the schoolgirl shot in the head by the Taliban for wanting an education, and for Mohammed Asghar, a mentally ill British man sentenced to death for blasphemy last week in Pakistan." Basically, Maajid Nawaz goes on to say, he tweeted that it's a bland image, the image of the cartoon which depicted Prophet Muhammad and Prophet Jesus. And he said, "As a Muslim, I do not feel threatened by it. My God is greater than that." Sheikh, isn't God and the Prophet greater than these depictions? Why can't we just ignore this and do our own thing?
Of course, God and all the prophets, including Jesus, are all beyond this. However, the Muslim followers, even the Abrahamic faiths, I'm sure some Christians were amused when they saw this cartoons, and Muslim Council of Commentary, I've seen it, when we liaise with the churches, local churches, we saw a reaction from them as well. They didn't like it, but of course they don't make their views public the way the Muslims did, to the extent that now everyone wants Maajid Nawaz to resign Lib Dem. But of course, God has no limitations, nor does the prophets. But as Muslims, they take Islam as their way of life. I think Guy mentioned a set of ideologies, which is correct to an extent. However, Muslims take Islam as the way of life.
But surely, if that is the case, then Muslims shouldn't really be offended in the 21st century about depictions of cartoons that are quite despicable, rude, offensive.
Can I just interrupt for a second?
Can I take a call?
Can I take
one call? Hold it there.
Let me just get...
just powder your nose while you're waiting.
Powder my nose.
Powder your nose. And,
does it need powdering?
Just slightly, yeah. Let's go to the calls. Let's see who's live on Ummah Channel. Assalamu alaikum, you're live on Ummah Channel? What's your name and where are you calling from? Hello, you're live on Ummah Channel.
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Wa Islam. Brother, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Ali from Leicester.
What's your name, brother?
Ali.
Ali from Leicester. Welcome to the show. What would you like to say?
Yeah, I'm a Muslim myself, and I basically found the cartoons offensive because we don't actually allow the portraits of our prophet. Like one of your members, one of your panel members basically said he didn't find it offensive. Also, he abbreviated the name as well. We don't abbreviate the prophet's name. It's Muhammad, not Mo. First of all, and it was offensive, and I think the guy who's done it, Mufta, whatever his name was, he's done it for publicity purposes. He must have got some kind of money for it. So, that's basically my point.
Thank you very much for your thoughts, and thank you for keeping it so brief. If all our callers were that brief, we'll get through many of you tonight. We've got loads of calls, tweets and Facebook messages, and I do want to get through some of them, but I promised to bring David back in.
Yes, you did.
How did you know us?
Yes,
David,
yes.
what would you like to say?
Can I say to my friend here, Amir, can I say hello? Would you care to respond?
Hello, David.
Okay, so the cartoon that you claim was a crisis was a picture, pencil drawing of Jesus and Muhammad saying hello to each other. I do not see, in all honesty, in the real world, how any sensible, rational, thinking person can claim that that's offensive.
That's part of the story, isn't it? Maajid Nawaz put up a link, which when you click on that link, there were so foul images of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and Prophet Jesus.
Why were they foul? Explain the...
Have you seen those pictures? Let me explain to you. Let me put a question to you. Where does that line of taste stop?
Well, I don't know what you're talking about.
Do you think Prophet Muhammad and Jesus in a pub drinking?
And Muhammad saying hello to each other. I'm only talking about that cartoon.
Let's go to the lines. Abdullah is on the line. Assalamu alaikum, Abdullah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum. Yes, brother, what do you like to say?
I want to say, these two guys on the panel you brought today, I think they're just talking about nonsense. Because...
So you need... I can't hear that very well. Abdullah from Manchester, can you speak up, my brother?
What's that?
Can you speak up, please, brother?
What I'm saying is, if it offends someone, right, why don't you do something about it?
Yeah, I think you're calling from a mobile and there's some problem with the line. We can't. If you stay on the line, see if we can sort it out, and we'll bring you back, Abdullah. But the point is, David, that there's a series of cartoons, right. And in the second and the third cartoon, as part of that series, there's a sketch of Muhammad and Jesus in a pub drinking.
Oh yeah.
And there's a sketch of Muhammad and Jesus in bed together.
Yes.
So you don't think that's offensive?
If you're offended by that, I absolutely support your right to recourse to the law. What I do not support would be anybody suggesting that a move towards violence to pose that. That would be completely unacceptable. And I think it's fair to say that when you went to Pakistan with your emails, with your contribution, that there was an element of violence being imbued there against a duly elected prospective parliamentary candidate. You have the right to be offended and you have the right to recourse to the law. You do not have the right to bully boy tactics. So
Thank you, David.
There was no violence involved in this instance. Even, Shafiq, you may remember last week, Lord Ashton applauded the Muslim community because in this instance there was no violence involved. We wanted to sit around the table with Maajid Nawaz, with Liberal Democrats, and discuss the whole issue. There's no harm in discussion. But obviously Maajid Nawaz, he did a publicity stunt, he acted irresponsibly, and he wasn't willing to apologise properly.
Well, that's okay, but why did this gentleman go to Pakistan? That's the point that I'm making.
David, I will want to answer that, but obviously I'm not here. I'm a presenter, and I'm asking the questions. Well, yes, and I'm sure Mazhar and Amir can pick up these points on the show. Let's go to the lines. Let's see who's on the lines. Assalamu alaikum, you're live on my channel.
Hello, assalamu alaikum, brother. It's Abdullah again. I rang before.
Yes, Abdullah, you sound a lot more clearer now, brother. What would you like to say?
Well, it's very bad reception where I am, so I've come outside.
Where are you?
You know, I'm in Preston. Well,
Preston.
I'm in Preston in Lancashire. What it is, I'm just ringing just to say, you know, these two guys on the panel who've just come on, I think they're just talking a lot of nonsense. The thing is, when it comes to Islam, when it comes to us, yeah, there's all, you know, they can say what they want, do what they want, and we just have to take it on the chin. The media doesn't get involved. No one gets involved. And what aim is, first thing is the Muslims. Now the thing is, look, it's like, I think last year was it, the referee, that woman got insulted, yeah? One of the commentators insulted the woman about you know, she couldn't do the offside rules. What happened to the guy? He got sacked straight away, right? A woman getting insulted. This is our prophet, peace be with him. We love him more than we love ourselves.
Okay, thank you very much, Abdullah. You made your point very clearly. David,
yes,
you were saying.
Well,
and I know you really want to ask me questions. I'm not here to answer questions. I'm here to put the questions. I'm happy to talk to you after about it, but I'm here.
I repeat that I'm absolutely in favour of people, anybody, who are offended, having recourse to the law. What I object to is the injection of potential violence as a way of persuading that person. Can I just gently remind you, and I really mean to be pragmatic here, and I'm not wanting to score unnecessary points, but I'm being gentle with you guys. Okay, we have had an underground blown up. We have had a bus blown up. We have had a soldier killed recently. We have had Malala shot in the head. We have an elderly British person under sentence of death in Pakistan at the moment. I don't hold you guys responsible, don't misunderstand. But I am saying
we had a 76-year-old Muslim killed by far-right extremists. Come on,
he wasn't very well. Yes.
What's your point? What's your point?
Well, that man was arrested and sentenced to life imprisonment. So, of course, I'm not in favour of anybody.
As with the murderers of Lee Rigby,
but don't claim that one murder is somehow less offensive than another.
The act of a few Muslims, so-called Muslims, does not represent...
No. I'm talking about the perception. You can say that
the scholars of Islam have said...
They say that they are representing Islam.
The scholars of Islam in unity have said that whoever says suicide bombing is allowed is clearly not a Muslim. They're a bunch of fools. The examples that you have given, those represent less than 1% of the entire Muslim population. Yeah. That's like saying the IRA represent the entirety of the Christianity in the whole world. Yes. That's wrong, isn't it?
Yes,
you can't judge the actions of a few compared to the whole nation.
Which is why we still need to ask you why you went to Pakistan.
David.
Okay.
Shafiq Mazhar.
Can I just make a couple of points?
Yeah, please, Mazhar.
And then it must be my turn.
Yes, it must be, Guy.
I'm waiting for you, Guy.
Yes,
it's
you
David.
Must fight, Guy. You must fight.
First and foremost, if my co-panelist has got a problem with people using violence, then maybe you should take his complaints to 10 Downing Street, because they're taking drones, they're taking millions worth of military hardware to slaughter men, women and children at the point men, women and children are being blown up to accept democracy and the secular way of life. So if you've got a problem with people with violence, then don't talk to us, because we're not the violent ones. It's the secular governments which are really the violent ones. They are the ones who have inflicted over a decade of carnage in Afghanistan and Iraq. So if you've got a problem with violence, go and talk to them. You're talking to the wrong people about violence.
I'm just very conscious we're going off topic here, and David's let me bring it back to topic. A great debater. I get a sense of the glint in his eye, and I really want to go and bring it back to the issue of the cartoons and the right to offend in the 21st century in this country or anywhere else.
Let's be absolutely clear about this. This whole debate about freedom to speak and the freedom to insult, this in itself is an extreme idea. It's extremist. It's an extremist idea from a secular ideological perspective. It is so extreme Freedom of speech is so extreme that not a single country in the entire world implements it. Every government's got laws that curtails people's speech. So in Britain, you can be arrested for glorification of terror. In Britain, you can be arrested for insult, for racial abuse. There's lots of things where speech is curtailed. Azhar Ahmed, for putting up a Facebook post, was arrested. The supporters of Dale Cregan were arrested. So there's plenty of laws in all over the world. Freedom of speech does not exist, cannot exist. It is a fanciful idea. We need to talk about limits. And the real question is, yes, every society has limits to what they can and cannot say. The question is, who puts the limit, man or God? We as Muslims are honest in this debate, and we say we will trust our Lord to put the limits of what is right and wrong, and not for man to decide what is right and wrong.
What was right and wrong. Let's take a call and then we'll go to Guy. Let's go. Let's see who's on the phones. Assalamu alaikum. You're live on Ummah Channel.
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
I'm still on the line. He hasn't answered my question.
Abdullah. I'm sure we will pick up your question, brother. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for staying on the line as well. Guy, let's take one more call. Can I take one more call and then we'll take a break on the calls because I really want to bring Guy in. Let's see who's on the line. Assalamu alaikum, you're live on Ummah Channel.
Wa alaikum salam. My name is Ashik, ringing from Bradford.
Hello. What would you like to say?
Hello, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. What would you like to say, brother?
I just want to say your panel is brilliant. The gentleman by the name of David sitting there.
David?
David, yes.
Why don't you talk to David? David's listening.
No, it's not a matter of talking to David. It's the opinion I have is that you're asking him questions, he's giving you answers about, a religion that we are so passionate about as Muslims. It doesn't seem, even though being a Christian, he's got that passion, because if he did have that passion...
He's not a Christian, he's an atheist. He doesn't believe in any religion. At least he's
well, that answers my question. I
religions.
don't understand why you've got somebody that has not got any passion for anything.
Oh, I have got passion, sir, trust me.
You've got passion for what, sorry?
Just not for religion.
Just not for religion, okay.
For alcohol.
Now,
for the truth.
The point being is, why have somebody on your panel who doesn't have passion for any religion?
I do have passion, sir, for the truth.
What is the truth?
Something we have to find.
That's a marvellous discussion. Let's bring
Guy in. Let's bring Guy.
He's trying to
as
get
the
in.
chair of the Greater Manchester Humanist Society. Can you give us some inspiration, Guy?
Go, Guy. Go.
I mean, you've seen the debate so far. There is clearly in this country a limit to free speech.
Yes, and that's, I'm glad you've said that.
There is a limit to free speech, and we all accept that there's a limit. There's certain occasions, for example, when the troops are coming home and burning poppies and being disrespectful to the troops coming home, whether you agree with the war or not. They're coming home, they've served their country well, and and you can't criticise them. People on Facebook were charged and convicted and sent to prison.
Can I say that the right of freedom of speech has never been an absolute right, which is somehow being suggested in this debate. It's always been a right that has limitations. And Article 10 of the European Convention makes it clear in Article 10.2 that there are limitations and that they have to obviously be reasonable and necessary in a democratic society, but they're around national security, territorial integrity, public safety, prevention of disorder or crime, protection of health or morals, protection of reputation or rights of others, preventing the disclosure of information received in confidence, or maintaining the authority and impartiality of the judiciary. Those are the principles around what can be brought in by governments to limit free speech. And I mean, we see in our own country massive limitations to freedom of speech, for instance, in the Public Order Act, which does actually prevent intentional abuse, threatening, abusive or insulting words or behaviour. That also includes images. And within that, there's also racial hatred, religious, incitement to religious hatred. So there's a lot of limitations already existing.
There's an issue which David raised about the death threats, and there's an issue about, Maajid Nawaz got a right in a free society to tweet that and shouldn't be subjected to death threats. But do you think that there is a limit, when you say there is a limit to free speech, that you could include religious figures or humanist or secularist thoughts as part of not being offended?
Well, I think this is where it gets very difficult, because certainly for me...
this is why I've come to you.
There is an awful lot of material out there in the public domain and on the internet, which I find offensive. I mean, you know, there's a huge realms of pornography. You know, the thing to do is not to look at it, to put a control on your computer so you can't even...
But is it slightly different that he's a parliamentary candidate who wants to be a lawmaker?
Yeah, but that's a very interesting issue because, you know, you could argue that he should be extra careful not to offend minorities. But on the other hand, maybe by positioning himself as a mature Muslim who is not offended by things, he's going to appeal to more voters.
Okay.
So, you know,
I
don't know. Yes,
Guy.
Very good point. Can we pick this up? It is a maturity to ignore things that offend you. That's what you have to do in a democratic society.
Mazhar, let me take a call. I'll come back to you.
No, let the caller wait. What is pathetic is to think that the liberal secular values is the default position, is a universal position. It's not a universal position. A tiny minority of people on this globe believe in your values. The vast majority of people come from different cultures and they don't believe in that. The vast majority of the world's cultures believe in respect for one another. You, in your high ivory towers, might not believe that and might believe that people should be insulted and we can all insult one another and feel very happy about it.
I've never said that.
And you might think that's mature.
I agree with respect.
You might feel that insulting, you know, respected figures is a sign of maturity, but the vast majority of the world's population will object to that.
Okay,
wait a minute. Now, I've never said that insulting someone was a sign of maturity. I said ignoring an offensive thing is a sign of maturity.
Right.
That's where maturity comes in.
Let me rephrase that.
If you ignore it.
Let me rephrase that. So a Muslim, when their prophet is insulted and keeps quiet and doesn't feel insulted, in your mind, that's a sign of maturity?
No, if he ignores it.
Yes or no?
If he ignores it, that's a sign of maturity. I ignore all sorts of things that I find offensive.
Okay.
I don't go screaming about it.
Gentlemen, let me take a call. Let's go to the calls. Let's see who's online. Assalamu alaikum, you're live on Ummah Channel.
Hi, my name's Said. I'm calling from Slough.
Said, what would you like to say?
I'd like to say the topic is good and basically it gives the knowledge to people what other non-Muslim and other people think about Islam and what does Islam people mean, you know what I'm talking about. And basically it's lack of education. I just want to say non-Muslims and Muslims supposed to read Holy Quran in a meaning of in English or Arabic or something, and they would find out this is what they call God said what they call it, this would be time of Judgment Day. And
okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Said, there from Slough. I'm cutting you off because we've got hundreds of people who want to get through, and I've got loads of messages on Facebook as well and on Twitter, and I want to get through them because I've asked people to let us know what they think, and so it's right that I tell you what they're saying. Hasnain Sajid says, freedom of speech does not mean say or do whatever you want. Recently, the FA punished Nicholas Anelka for an offensive goal celebration, so how can they not expect us not to be offended when someone insults our Prophet? Muhammad Azim says, great programme, Shaf. To be honest, this is another stunt by the poor man begging for publicity, Maajid Nawaz. No religion has a right to defend itself when it is attacked. Just like a personal attack on a person's father or mother, religion is a sentimental part of one's life. Sorry, all religions have a right to defend themselves. Muhammad Azim, this is on Facebook if you want to join the discussion. Okay, I'm going to get through some of them because I really promised. Rashid Hussain says, attack on Islam from within or outside the religion should be condemned. How would the Pope react if there was an act of disrespect towards Jesus or Christianity? And let me get some on Twitter whilst we're at it to balance it out. Yaqub Hanif says the numbers always engage. That's one of the problems. That's why you've got Twitter and Facebook. You can tweet us your thoughts and I'll get through some of them as I am. Haroon_55 says, Maajid Nawaz runs a counter-extremism group tweeting something which people find offensive. PR stunt cause Quillian Foundation media hype gone quiet. Abdul Rahim Shah says, so why these cartoonists don't spend their time addressing the real problems? Abdul Rahim Shah says, why aren't the cartoonists don't spend their time addressing real problems? Abdul Jabbar says, freedom of speech is limited and not universal, but is restricted to secular liberalism. Islamic red lines come from God. Symptoms, DJ Niels, some crazy names on Twitter, aren't there? He says, Okay, I'm not going to read that. I want to read you this one because I think they're linked. So anyway, Justice for All says, I can burp in your face, but I won't because it's rude and offensive. Why would you want to do a cartoon? And then DJ Neil says, you can burp in my face, but I will notify Islamic countries immediately. You've been warned. I can laugh at myself, you know.
Yes.
I can certainly laugh at myself. Rochelle Johnson says, as a non-Muslim, I cannot understand why cartoons are so offensive.
Yes.
As a human being, I see far worse problems that need addressing.
Absolutely.
Okay, John McManus says, chairing the debate because he's also a protagonist with clear views on Jason and Mohammed. How can he be impartial? Well, John McManus, I know you're watching. I actually think I am being impartial. I've asked the right questions to the right people, and I'm going to carry on doing that despite what David is trying to lay this trap for me to tell you my own views.
I'm so wicked. You can't trust us atheists, you know.
I love you. I love you, really.
You heard it from the horses now.
Absolutely. Okay, so Mohammed Shabi says, excellent programme. Equality legislation hasn't prevented racism, institutional racism, Islamophobia. Why do people want the need to offend? And Maajid Iqbal says, freedom of speech is like the Emperor's New Clothes story. Muslims today are like the boy who told the king that he was naked. And I want to give one more because obviously I want to give a balance of views about what tweets are saying. Davy Boy Roy says, the fact that this is a row about it is a disgrace. They're cartoons, says Davy Boy Roy. Thank you so much for that.
Excellent.
And
I'll go with that.
I Love Medina Zaf 1981 says, we need to respect all religions. Muslims don't make cartoons regardless of religious matters, so what gives them the right or wrong? Okay, I think we're going to stop there. But there is a point. We were talking, and the point about there is a limit to free speech. So could you envisage in a secular society, if religion was banished to the living room, to ban depictions of religion,
well,
not to cause offence?
Let's take the first bit first. In a secular society, religions would not be banished. They wouldn't be
public. They wouldn't play a public
public
role in that sense, state role.
They wouldn't play a state role, you're quite right. Yeah. But the whole point about a secular society is it's the right sort of society, contrary to what Mazhar says, for a diverse religious field.
Absolutely.
Where you have, hundreds of different religions in a country. The only way they can possibly live together peacefully is with mutual respect in a secular society where no one religion has power over the others by being established or in any other way. That's the problem with our country. We have an established religion. I want that, the C of E, disestablished and no other religion to get the same sort of power that has or had. So that's the first point.
That's the first point.
The second point was...
Do you think in that secular world, if you were to get a secular country and you were going to get religion out of public life, that religions could have their people respected and people offended their religious sentiments, that there's some kind of recourse to public laws or to countries? Do you think? Would you think something?
I think people should be respected, I think that their sensibilities should be respected. What I'm a bit unhappy about is the idea that that people should that idea should be enforced to the point where people aren't free to have cartoons. I think that would be very sad if that was the case. And I think the duty is to ignore material you don't like, that you find offensive. That is what a responsible, mature person in a democratic, secular society should do. Now, if you don't want that sort of society, you can argue against it in a democratic, free, secular society.
Absolutely.
You won't necessarily be able to argue against it in a tyrannical, society that is run by priests or mullahs, because they will want, they won't allow it. Probably. So,
I do. I want to bring the Sheikh in, and then I want to go to David, and then I'll come back to you, Mazhar.
Guy, I would like to suggest that what you mentioned about mutuality and respect, this is what the Muslims want.
Yeah.
Muslims want to live in
That's
UK,
great.
UK as British citizens with respect, with mutuality.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. I'm
all in favour.
When Lee Rigby passed away, when that incident took place, Muslim Council of Commentary...
Sorry, who?
Lee Rigby.
Oh, yes.
When the murder took place. Muslim Council of Commentary, we got about 10, 15 imams together.
Yes, yes.
We went down to the Woolwich area. We gave out white roses in honour of Lee Rigby. Yes. Why did we do this? To show respect, to show to the public that not all Muslims are the same.
I think gestures like that were appreciated.
Gestures like that, the reason why we did that gesture was to then earn respect from the rest of the public, isn't it?
Yeah.
So all the Muslims want is mutuality and respect. But then people like Maajid Nawaz or others, they on purpose provoke the community.
Well, I don't agree with that. I don't agree they were provoked.
Yes,
I think what's happened is that there is a bit of an outrage game going on here, where Muslims start jumping up and down for about things that they shouldn't be doing. Because they are marginal, peripheral matters and not the central points about your religion.
Guy, with respect, if someone mentioned something about your mother, you of course would be provoked. You would say, "Who the hell are you to talk about my mother like that?" Islam teaches us that God and Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is closer than your mother. So you can see the emotional touch to it.
I can see the emotional
how personal it is, and hence the reaction. But of course, we do not say that violence is the way forward. We need to sit around the table, have that respect and mutuality.
Well, okay, let's take a call. Let's go to where are we going to? I don't know where we're going to. I've not been told today. Assalamu alaikum. You're live on Ummah Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Can you switch your TV volume up, brother?
My name is Wasim. I'm calling from Birmingham.
Yeah, I know, but can you switch your TV volume off first? So, okay. It would help, dear viewers, if you switch your TV volume off and just bear with us and we'll come to you, because I don't really like interrupting mid-sentence. Well, apart from the panel, I like to interrupt the panel, but not so much with
the John Humphreys style.
The John Humphreys style, yes.
John Humphreys style.
Yes. I'm John Humphreys, really.
Let's go to the calls. Assalamu alaikum, you're live on my channel.
Hello, hi there.
Hello, good evening. What's your name and where are you calling from, bro?
Yeah, my name is Zahir. I'm calling from London.
Zahir, what would you like to say?
Yeah, first couple of comments. I've listened to everybody and I really agree with David and Guy's point of views with regards to not acting violently when these things happen. That's really good. And I think Shaykh made a good point there as well. None of this happened this time round. The guy's point about being mature when these things happen, that's very true. It is definitely being more mature to ignore these things. My question to the Shaykh is, in the times of Holy Prophet ﷺ, when he was abused, whether it was physically or in some other way, mocking or verbally, what was his reaction? Can he give us an example of how he reacted? It was because the points keep on coming back to if this was your mother or your father, how would you act? But I'd like to ask them, how did Holy Prophet react when he was abused verbally or his daughters were abused? I don't think he reacted in a way like this. It was always ignoring the abusers and aggressors. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good point.
The good point, of course.
Thank you very much indeed, Zahir there from London. It's time for a break. When we come back, we'll come back to the Shaykh and see if we can get some answers on those questions. Join us on the other side of this. Welcome back to Debate Now with me, your host, Mohammed Shafiq, live from the studios of Ummah Channel here in Blackburn. We're talking about the right to offend and those cartoons that were, the tweet of the cartoons, which Maajid Nawaz, who's a parliamentary candidate for the Liberal Democrats in Hampstead and Kilburn, tweeted saying he believed that God and the Prophet were bigger than these offensive cartoons and that he wasn't offended. And that caused a huge controversy within the Muslim community and outside the Muslim community. Some people saying that they were offended and some people saying that they weren't offended, as we've seen tonight in some of the tweets and the Facebook messages and some of the callers we've had. Sheikh, I mean, let's just go to the comment about depictions of the Prophet.
Shall I answer the question from the caller first?
Yeah, we'll come back to that. I just want to pick up this important point because depicting the prophets, is it definitive that it's forbidden in Islam in all circumstances?
Yes, majority of the scholars and I would say 99% of the Muslims.
So there is the 1% who believe that depictions of the prophets is okay?
Well, that's their view, isn't it? Up till date, I haven't seen any evidences from them, but again, if that's their view, isn't it?
And what does the majority, 99%, believe?
That depictions of all prophets, 124,000, are not allowed.
Not allowed. Okay, let's go to... I want to...
99% though. You know, you've just
It's
dragged that out of the ether.
No, it's empirical evidence, which I can back up.
You can present that tonight?
Yeah, not tonight, but
Okay.
in due course.
The Ottoman caliphs didn't seem to agree with that. They depicted the Prophet.
Yes.
And at that time, they were the caliphs.
I think we've got a call. Let's take a call and we'll come back to this. Let's go to the call. Assalamu alaikum, you're live on Ummah Channel.
Hello, assalamu alaikum, Shafiq.
Why, Sam, brother? What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, my name's Nasser. I'm from Bradford.
Nasser, Bradford. What would you like to say?
Yeah, what I'd like to say is, being as a Muslim, and regarding the last caller, he considers himself to be a Muslim, but he has no clue regarding the love of the Prophet and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned.
Sorry, can you speak up, brother?
What I'd like the Sheikh to mention is, you know, like the last caller has put it, what the Prophet, peace be upon him, said to people when they insulted him, which he didn't. I'd like the Sheikh to mention, not regarding what the Prophet, but regarding the companions like Hazrat Umar Farooq radiallahu ta'ala anhu, what he did when somebody insulted the Prophet.
Thank you very much, there, Nasser from Bradford. Usman Qureshi says, Guy said that it's mature to ignore or to look away from these insults. That is absurd. As why are defamation cases not ignored? And why don't we ignore other offences? Why don't Ofcom, for those of you who know who Ofcom is the broadcaster regulator that regulates everything that we do in the media, ignore things on TV, etc. And in the same way, we cannot ignore such insults as they go against defined law. And that was Usman Qureshi. Sheikh, can you pick up the point? I mean, not so much, but how did the Prophet deal with insults during his time?
Look, Muslims believe that Prophet ﷺ was the best of examples as a human. Prophet ﷺ, when he was insulted, he reacted with love. Obviously, there were situations where love had not then been successful. Hence, there were battles like Battle of Badr, Uhud, Trench. All these were then the last resort where violence was used. However, the first option for Prophet ﷺ, his strategy was love. But when Allah was insulted by people like Abu Jahl, etc., Prophet ﷺ did react, and he did argue with them in a discussion form, of course. But when it came to himself, like for example, there's an example where the lady used to throw rubbish on Prophet ﷺ every day, on a daily basis. But what did he react with? Love. When that lady got ill, Prophet ﷺ visited her.
So when Maajid Nawaz tweeted that cartoon, we should have shown him love.
Maajid Nawaz is not worthy of love, I would say.
Oh,
why not?
That's terrible.
But if you were following the path of the Prophet as you've just articulated, as you said, then the Prophet showed love to the person who poured dirt on him, and therefore then you should show love towards Maajid Nawaz or anybody else who offends the Prophet.
We try to handle the situation in a nice way. We contacted Lib Dem, who Maajid Nawaz represents. We contacted other organisations. But obviously there's no solution up till now. Lib Dems have unfortunately said that they cannot, on record, say anything or even ask Maajid Nawaz to resign. Off the record, there's loads of things that they've said, which I cannot disclose. So yeah, the route to love in this situation has failed. And now apparently I've heard that now there's this propaganda that Lib Dems should not be voted for, but that was something that Lord Ashton and Lib Dems knew that was coming their way. Muslims are now openly saying, never vote for Lib Dems, which might be a surprise to you, Shafiq, but...
everything is not a surprise for me as a news broadcaster. Let's go to the... I hear a lot of stories. Let's go to the lines again. You're live on my channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Shafiq, brother, Yaqub again, Blackburn.
Hello, Yaqub.
Right. I would like to say two things, Shafiq. First, we Muslims respect the Jesus and Moses. And that's why certain groups and certain media is taking advantage. They know if we criticize the Muslim, right, let them upset and provoke it. Okay. But they're not going to insult to the Jesus, or they're not going to insult the Moses anyway. And the second thing is I want to mention, if somebody media or somebody group just try to insult to the Hindus and Sikh, then they will see the street of in London how much reaction going on.
Okay.
They will see the reaction.
Thank you very much.
Than the
Thank you
Muslims.
much. And I'm sure we would at some stage in the future want to cover the issue of the Amritsar Golden Temple issue, and I'm sure that's something, if you want to talk about it, we will cover it at a future date. Adam Nugent says, people have a right to freedom of speech, expression, and this includes drawing and disseminating cartoons if they wish. Yes, David. David, you've been so quiet in the corner.
I've been so patient. It's been almost unbelievable. Here is the problem with being offended about everything. Okay, here it is. If you look at all the wars going on in the world today, almost every single one, without exception, has its fundamental cause religion. And it is because...
Mazhar, I'll bring you in, I promise. Mazhar, I will, promise. Mazhar.
It is because...
Just take some water. Just have some water.
Each religion thinks that it is superior to the others in various ways.
Okay.
And that's the problem.
That's a problem. I mean, you obviously... Would you like to just declare an interest for our viewers?
In what?
You don't like any of the religions?
Like is a wrong word.
You don't approve of any religions?
Atheist.
You're an atheist, you think religion is the root cause of all evil in the world?
Which means that I find there is no evidence for an entity which is essentially an imaginary supernatural entity. There is no evidence for that being at all whatsoever.
Okay.
I'm
thinking of I'm thinking of a program about does God exist, and I'm sure we can pick that up in one of those programs.
That would be a good
but
one.
let's go back to the topic. I'd rather not. Let's keep it to the topic.
Utter nonsense, yeah?
That religion is the root cause of all these problems.
World War I, nothing to do with religion. World War II, nothing to do with religion.
No, I did say today. I said today
Iraq,
specifically.
British Western colonial policy in Iraq. Afghanistan, British Western colonial policy. The problem in Palestine is a remnant of British foreign policy. The remnant in Kashmir, British foreign policy. What happened in Northern Ireland? British foreign policy. Nothing to do with Catholicism and Protestantism. Nothing to do with Muslims and Jews.
Sunni and Shia? Sunni and Shia?
Sunni and Shias have lived for 1,400 years together without any wars. But because of black operations in Iraq and Afghanistan,
Gentlemen, Mazhar, I just don't want to get into a... Let's go to the point about the issue of right to offend.
Every society,
you sound like somebody who doesn't want to, wants to always be offended.
No, absolutely not.
You're so right. I'd agree with that.
David, as an
I'm
atheist,
so wicked.
Gentlemen, let me take a call. I'll come back to you. I promise, you'll have a good stink because I know you've been... Okay, let's go to the lines. Let's see who's on the call. Line. Assalamu alaikum, you're live on Ummah Channel. Hello, Assalamu alaikum, you're live on Ummah Channel.
Walaikum assalam. My name is Maajid Nawaz, but from France.
But sir, bonjour, ça va?
My brother Shafiq.
Yes, it's Shafiq. Assalamu alaikum, how are you?
Yeah, tout va bien. All right, I'm all right.
Comment t'appelles-tu?
Yes, please.
Ici la fenêtre.
Yeah, we're trying our French. Anyway, Batsa, what would you like to say?
Yeah, respected panel tonight. Tonight topic is very beautiful and excellent program. Right to offend. I'm coming to my question, but before my question, I would like to give few comments, please. Freedom of speech, I mean religion, social and political rights, these are fundamental rights in society everywhere or everyone. My question is this to the panel tonight. Is it freedom that any person abuse or make cartoons, insult it or ignore Muslim culture? For example, our Prophet Imam al-Anbiya, peace be upon him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Hazrat Muhammad, or Jose Christ. Thank you. Do remember in your prayers.
Thank you. You too. Nice to always hear from you, Nawaz Bhatta from France.
I had a little bit of trouble hearing that.
Yeah, I'll come back to it in a second.
Thank you.
I want to go back to Mazhar. But I get a sense of this sense that Muslims, can't seem to be always offended about if it's not the cartoons, it's something else. And you've got this victim mentality.
No, not at all.
As Muslims.
Every society has sensitivities, yeah? Every society has... What is patronizing is when white, middle-class, liberal, secular people think they're in a
like
position...
me.
Yeah, just like yourself, who think that they have a right to define sensitivities for the whole world and for every culture and civilization that exists on the globe. Now, for example, I could take a box of poppies, go to the high street, empty them, and dance a merry dance on them, yeah? A lot of people would get offended. I would never do that, right? I don't think that's sensitive. It's just flowers. But I know the British public would get offended by that, and I wouldn't do it because that's their sensitivities, and I wouldn't do that to provoke them. That doesn't mean we can't have a debate and discussion about British foreign policy, right? So that I find very patronizing when people think, white, secular, middle-class people think that they can tell the rest of the world what sensitivity should be. And coming to Guy's point about it's best to live in a secular world and not a totalitarian state, that again is betraying his ignorance about Islam, because an Islamic state is not that. You know, the Islamic State existed for hundreds of years.
Like Saudi Arabia.
It's not an Islamic state. Again, ignorance.
It's a totalitarian Islamic state.
It's a British colonial
theocracy.
project created by...
Iran, totalitarian Islamic state.
Yeah, theocracy.
These are all borders drawn after the Sykes-Picot Agreement.
As much as I love to talk about foreign policy, let's go back to the topic about the issue of... right to offend.
Tolerance, yeah? In an Islamic state, Jews, Christians, peoples of no faith were protected for hundreds of years and lived harmoniously in Spain, in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in all places, yeah? But when you find Western nations, they talk about tolerance. They're in no position to talk about tolerance, because when they took their secularism to Australia, they wiped out the Aborigines and enforced their way of life. When they went to America, they wiped out the native Indians and enforced their way of life. When they went to India, they slaughtered the ulama in India to impose their way of life. When they went to Southern Africa, they slaughtered the black people. So they are in no position to talk about tolerance. Whereas when Muslims went to Africa, when Muslims went to Asia, wherever Muslims went, we left the people and we brought them a new way of life. If they didn't accept that, they were left to practice their religion.
So
that's absolutely rubbish. There were millions of people slaughtered by Muslim, colonial and imperialists.
Absolutely.
To dictate to the rest of the world about tolerance, because they are the most intolerant.
Gentlemen, as much as
the Muslims were imperialists first.
I must stress for you to come back to the topic.
That is the topic.
That is not the topic. It's the issue.
No, it isn't.
Let's go back to the topic.
No.
You sound like somebody who doesn't want to be, wants to be offended all the time.
I'm not offended.
Offended? You're offended?
I'm here to have
so why can't you just...
we can talk about Muslim imperialism. This is crazy.
I'm sure we can talk about...
it's a different subject.
About a different subject on a different day.
I'm just addressing this point.
But there is a point about being offended or just ignoring the offence.
Sorry, say again?
If you claim, as many of the Muslims were claiming, that Maajid Nawaz was doing it as a publicity stunt, then why give him the oxygen?
No, I think it was a good excuse for Muslims to, again, expose this fallacy of freedom of speech, because it doesn't exist. And it seems to be very one-sided. That when
you mean
Muslims,
absolute freedom of speech?
When Muslims are insulted, we should tolerate it. But when a footballer does some kind of a hand gesture,
no,
he
we
gets
never
banned.
asked you to tolerate it. We
So
only asked you to have recourse to the law of the land where you live.
When a football player,
we're sat here. Here is a sheikh, here is a sheikh, here is an
point?
atheist, and we're sat next to each other. And I think that's marvellous.
That's fine. And nobody's against that.
Well, this is what we want.
Who's against that?
Absolutely.
Who's against that?
Absolutely.
Who's against it?
But
you're trying to portray that Muslims are against it.
There are
Muslims.
Muslims. There are Muslims who are calmer.
Just like your politicians who go around slaughtering people.
I mean, I met some Muslims the other day. They were Ahmadis, and they were much more...
I'm sure
they're not considered Muslims.
Yes, well, you see,
Mazhar Khan, gentlemen,
the Saudis aren't Muslims, the Ahmadis aren't Muslims,
they are Muslims.
The Shias aren't Muslims.
They are Muslims.
Oh, they are.
Guy, come on. Can we get back to the topic?
You're putting words in my mouth. As a white secular liberalist, he knows best. He knows Islam better than a Muslim.
Gentlemen, Sheikh, let's come to you. What do you want to come out of this crisis?
Respect and mutuality. From both sides.
And if Maajid Nawaz was here in the studio, what would you say to him?
Apologise for what he's done. And set a better, as a politician, set a better example.
What if he doesn't mean, if he doesn't really believe that he wants to apologize, if this is his deeply held belief,
why does a politician
then
need
why
to?
should he apologize?
Why does a politician need to, through his objective analysis of using Twitter, put up a derogative picture on his Twitter? Clearly, it can be interpreted as a publicity stunt to gain more seats. So that Ummah Channel could speak about him, all the channels could, well...
You Muslims fell into the trap. He wanted to create a scene and you give him a scene.
Well, no, we didn't come on the roads to create a scene. We did it behind doors with the right people, but there hasn't been the solution that we wanted.
So, David.
Yes.
No religion should have the right not to be offended.
No religion should not have the right to be defended.
No, to be offended. Have the right not to be offended.
Not to be offended.
The right not to be offended, I think.
The right to be offended, or the right not to be offended. I get a sense that people are saying...
I cannot possibly define for every single human being in the world what is offensive to them or not, okay?
So David, as an atheist, do you have the right to offend? As an atheist?
As a human being, I have the right to offend.
Okay.
I mean, it might be that you
but it's an inadvisable thing to do.
It might be that you hold offensive views to my own, and I would let you know that in firm manner. That does not mean that I would attack you personally.
So, David, you accept that offending is a subjective thing, isn't it, rather than objective?
It is.
Yes, it is.
Unfortunately, it is.
It is, exactly.
That is one of the problems we face.
But that's one of the reasons that we're having this wonderful discussion.
Coming back to the
Here
topic,
we are, discussing it peaceably.
Depicting the images of prophets is subjectively offending Muslims. Hence, people like Maajid Nawaz should not.
Yes, you know, I'm actually going to...
It's not about David. It's
I'm just gonna,
yes or no.
What?
The Muslims have been offended by this, and it's a subjective thing, so they were right to do so. You're saying that Muslims, well, Guy was saying that Muslims should just ignore.
No.
But we're out of the days of ignorance.
He wasn't. He was saying that that is a mature approach. And now I mentioned the Hello cartoons, and you mentioned the ones in bed. So I haven't seen the cartoon. I'm assuming that Jesus and Mo were both clothed and in bed next to each other. Is that correct?
Well, we're getting too much into the details.
Well, I'm just asking you why that would be offensive.
Okay, let me take a call. We'll take it. We'll take a call. Let's go to the lines. Assalamu alaikum. We're live on Ummah Channel. Hello.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Brother, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name's Ali Shah. I'm calling from Windsor.
Windsor, yeah?
Yep.
Yes, brother. What do you like to say?
I'd like to say all the topic you said, guys, that's good. People are giving their views. They're telling about their feelings, what they think about, on this topic. And in basically, the person who said, they're supposed to read Quran, that it's up to the people who, if they non-Muslims want to read Quran or not. But in Quran, it says our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, has said don't make pictures because the pictures can be wrong. It could be wrong description of a prophet, and plus that on the judgment day, then he would reveal himself, and then he would tell what's right and wrong. And
okay, thank you very much, Nasser. I apologise, I'm cutting people off, but we've got loads of calls waiting, and I want to get through as many as possible. And surprisingly, we've only got about 5 or 10 minutes left. Amazing, it's just flown by.
Time
We
flies
could sit here for another 2 hours. So let's ask the question. Sheikh, do you condemn the death threats?
Of course.
Towards Maajid Nawaz or anybody else who wants to tweet cartoons, wants to depict the prophets or any other religion? Do you condemn their violence to them?
If I can answer, in any civilized society, death threats are not allowed. And just to say that even I've had death threats from Al-Shabaab, but that does not stop me from what I do, from what I believe in. Death threats is in any society, whether it's radical people or whether it's moderate people, there's no room for death threats.
And so in a liberal democracy, yes, surely Maajid Nawaz had the right to tweet that cartoon.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, Maajid Nawaz, well...
surely, if we live in a democracy, then he's free to do that, isn't he?
Well, again, the limitation question arises that, okay, he can have his views, but again, where you're offending people, then there should be a limitation of freedom of expression, isn't it? And here, that's what Maajid Nawaz has done. If he wanted to discuss that topic of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and Prophet Jesus speaking to each other or whatever, then he could have done so.
Well, Maajid Nawaz's defence, let me get you what his defence is, because I think obviously we would have preferred for Maajid Nawaz to be here in the studio to tell us what his views were, but obviously he's not doing any media interviews. Says, and we'll take one more final call and then we'll close the lines. Just go to Colin in a second. Maajid Nawaz says he wants Islam and Muslims to change and reform, and he wants to start that debate, and by tweeting that cartoon, which he doesn't find offensive, he's starting a debate within the Muslim community.
I think, do you want me to answer?
Yeah.
I think that's very laudable.
Actually, I think he's hit the nail on the head there. He's trying to change Islam, and this is exactly what Jack Straw said in 2002 in the Prospect magazine. He goes, we want to reform Islam to create a new Islam which is compatible with secular liberal values. And everybody knows that the Quilliam Foundation is a neo-conservative type of an organisation.
Well, I mean, the Quilliam Foundation would disagree if they were here.
Of course they would, but they're with, what is it, the JSW Foundation as well. They're working with the neocons, you know. The
Henry Jackson Society.
Henry Jackson Society. So everybody
who
knows
will also disagree that they're right-wing.
That's fine, but I mean, in other people's perceptions, they will perceive them as a neocon type, you know, right-wing type of organisation. And that is an agenda in the West to put this pressure on Muslims.
Are you up for that debate?
I'm more than happy for the debate, absolutely. But they have to be honest that they want to re-engineer Islam, like they re-engineered the Qadiani religion in India to stop the Muslim resistance to the British occupation.
You mean the Ahmadis?
Yeah, the Ahmadis, yeah. The British manufactured that religion in India as to stop the Muslims from having a political voice.
I'm sure we've touched this. I don't really want to get into that, because obviously that'll open another kind of worms which we don't want to open. I want to take one final call. Let's go to the lines and see who's there. Assalamu alaikum, you're live on Ummah Channel.
Yeah, walaikum assalam.
Yes, brother. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, my name is Mohammed. I'm calling from London. Just 2 points, please.
Yes, brother.
One to Guy. He said that we should be mature about things. I'd like to just point out quickly that, for example, if I was to swear and say whatever to your mother every day, put that on the newspapers, expect you to be mature about it, I don't think so you'll be able to. You'll have a limit. Secondly, David and Guy, they both, with respect, because they lack the knowledge of Islam, the two Asian brothers in the middle, they should show appreciation for that, because their questions are going to be from ignorance. So you two in the middle, you should be, with appreciation, giving them answers with love.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mohammed. It's a great pleasure to obviously have David and Guy here. It's also a great pleasure to have the two Asians.
We are showing love by sitting together.
By here together.
And we'll have a cup of tea later.
David, I don't often agree with a man who professes to be an atheist, but David, I think you hit it on the nail on the head. Is the very fact that we're in this room and there is a debate, there's a dialogue, and you're sitting next to each other, I think is really good, isn't it, David?
Yes.
But I hear a but. I'm hearing a but, David.
No, not at all. I just want to take that a fraction further. Amir suggested, I think, that somehow the Muslim community appeared to have no limitation on what was being done to them. I'd like to gently suggest to him that this discussion here on this television channel, where there is no blood flowing and where we are still speaking to each other and where we may have a cup of tea afterwards, that is the limitation.
You're pushing your luck there, David. You're pushing your luck about the cup of tea.
That is the limitation in a liberal, secular society, and it is to be welcomed and protected.
Thank you, David. And just on the flowing of blood, where was any blood flowing over this crisis?
Well, you keep refusing to answer my question because you're the guy at the head of the table. So next time you must not be there.
Answer his question.
Yeah, but there has been no violence.
He's lying.
There's been no blood.
Wait.
Thankfully, there hasn't.
Yes,
thankfully.
But
so why keep referring to it? Why do you keep referring to it?
Because the lack of bloodshed was not down to your thinking, was it? Why would you need to contact Muslims in Pakistan, when this was really, to be honest with you, a relatively minor affair in the country in which you live and which you partake of. You are a member of a liberal democratic
I'm just trying to understand. You said
the action that you took was not liberal or not democratic.
That's
Well, David, how can you say
that's
minor?
your opinion. Let me say, in a democracy, surely Muslims have the right to challenge things within the democratic process.
I absolutely agree with you.
And the Sheikh sat next to you, was at the meeting with the Liberal Democrats, weren't you, Sheikh?
Yes.
And participated in democratic process.
I absolutely agree with you.
David, I just want to thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you for coming.
Been almost all mine.
Yes, it's a pleasure on my part as well. And as much as you've pushed me to answer some of these questions,
we're going to miss that cup of tea.
Yeah, go on. We're going to miss that cup of tea.
You've really pushed it.
Is there a biscuit?
You're not even getting a cup of tea.
Can I ask?
And forget the biscuit.
Sheikh,
I'd love to bring you back, but we've reached the end of the show. Mazhar, thank you so much.
I was going to ask David if he wants to join Islam or not.
We'll give you tea and we'll give you, I think, a donut.
Marvellous.
Will that convince you?
Donuts, marvellous.
Thank you so much. And Guy, as ever, good to have you. And I'm sure we might pick up that topic of does God really exist at a future date. Thank you so much. And I just want to say two things. One, it's absolute pleasure to bring you the debate tonight. As Muslims, we have the right to use our democratic right within this country to raise our concerns with the government and the political parties. Muslims, when they see offence, have the right to raise that through petitions or whatever else issues that they do. Nobody has the right to use violence. Nobody has the right to threaten violence. And thankfully, as David said, there was no violence, and we're very, very grateful that there wasn't. But it doesn't go away from the issue. The Muslims have been offended, and there are some Muslims who haven't been offended. Let's be honest. But this debate tonight has shown the best of our community and the best of wider society, that we can come together and have an honest and open debate, and then we can give David a cup of tea and give him a donut if it's here in the office. Thank you so much to all our callers, Facebook messages and Twitter comments. Muslims are not immune from criticism, where our religion is not immune from being challenged or questioned. What is unacceptable is the deliberate attempt to provoke Muslims' feelings by depicting the prophets and being derogatory about our faith or any other faith. That's what we say as Muslims, and that's what we say to all of you watching this at home. But that does not mean that we somehow fast-track into a path of violence, as some may claim. Thank you for your calls. Thank you for your messages. Wherever you are watching this around the world, good night.